don't know what a trough pin is yet, understand, but you will in a moment. They're fantastic things, and they make it very easy to tell Sentient Trader what you believe is happening in the market. Now, I specifically created this workspace because it, by default, analyzes, in my opinion, in the wrong way. I see a question from Mark. Do the workspaces have to be open for the alerts to work, or can they run on a watch list? Mark, at present the workspaces must be open in your software in order for them to be sending alerts. There is a future development that we are working on, which is still some distance away, where you will be able to operate Sentient Trader almost in sort of background mode on several workspaces. But certainly at present, in order for an alert to be sent, the workspace must be open in Sentient Trader. Okay. That's not really a limitation, because I have several systems that run. In fact, I have several systems that run 5 or 6 workspaces, each of which have 6 charts. So and they work very, very smoothly and very well, and send me alerts. Sometimes they send me too many alerts. Okay, let's quickly have a look at this analysis. Why did I create this end of day chart in this particular way? I created it because if I was an inexperienced Sentient Trader user, I like to believe I'm not, but if I was, I might not have set an analysis period, which meant that when Sentient Trader ran the default analysis, this is what it would have done. It would have put an 18-month cycle trough over there, over there, over there, over there, and say another one is happening now. Okay, I believe that's a bad analysis. Okay. In Sentient Trader's defense, it's because of the fact that a correct analysis period has not been set, all right, which, as you know, is the one and only thing that you must do correctly. In fact, with version 3 of Sentient Trader, you don't even have to do that anymore, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, so I look at this analysis and I say, no, this is nonsense. Of course that analysis is not correct. What are you doing, Sentient Trader? I start reaching for the phone to call that developer, but before I do that, I realized that I can use the brand new trough pinning feature to tell Sentient Trader where I think the troughs should be. Okay, and this is how it works. I'm going to rush through it now, but next week we'll talk about it in more detail. The way that you do it is very simple. You double click on your chart near a trough that you want to move. I want to move this 18-month trough, and I want to put it here in June of 2010. Okay, I double click. Okay, do you notice that grey dashed line? I hope that's showing up on your screen. There's a grey dashed line pointing to the 7th of June 2010. Okay, I right click and I say pin the 18-month cycle trough over there. Okay, Sentient Trader re-performs the analysis. Now, for those of you who spent months building expert models, you can still use an expert model, and your expert models will work. And if you love building expert, you can still use that process. But you're very quickly going to start using the trough pinning process, because it is so much better than anything that Sentient Trader did before. Okay, and now there you can see the 18-month cycle trough has been positioned in June of 2010. So I've told Sentient Trader that I think it is wrong, and please redo it, and I did it really. There were admittedly 2 clicks of the mouse. Okay, so it's a really simple process. Now this analysis looks a whole lot better. Look at the position of those 18-month cycle troughs. They make a whole lot more sense, and they really are a whole lot better. Okay, then what you do with your analysis is you take a look at the most recent detail, and you find that here there is a trough of a 20-week trough sitting at 101 days. Perhaps you're not really feeling very comfortable about that. Maybe you don't like the positioning of the 18-month cycle over there. So you want to actually position that cycle somewhere else. Again, you do it very, very simply by double-clicking. And it really is time for me to wrap up. We've been going for almost an hour. But before I do that, let me show you how you know that your charts have been influenced by your opinion. Your charts will appear like this. Okay. Some of you have seen this before on previous trader chats, where I left this trough pinning sort of open and visible by mistake. Can you see that that little pin? That little pin tells me that that trough has been pinned. In other words, you've positioned it there. Why is that important? Well, for an end-of-day chart, it's probably not very important, but for an intraday chart, it is very important. Intraday charts move very quickly. They change very, very quickly. Let's see if I can do some trough pinning over here on this particular chart. I again simply double-click, I right-click there, and I'll send you a cycle trough over there. Now, if any of you have ever tried building an expert model for an intraday chart, you will know it is a pretty tricky process. By the time you've built your expert model, you will find that the market has moved so fast that, in fact, it doesn't work. And so Sentient Trader has reanalyzed, but it has not, you'll notice, positioned the pin, which points up another very, very important aspect of pinning, which is that that if you tell Sentient Trader to pin a particular trough in an impossible position according to the analysis, then Sentient Trader won't do it. Okay. Are ways of working with it, and we can try and pin some other troughs, and we can see whether we can persuade Sentient Trader that in fact it really must position that trough over there. But if you cannot persuade Sentient Trader to position a trough where you want to pin it, then you should know that your pin is incorrectly placed. Okay, there we go. Now I have just redone the analysis, and here is a pin on the 5-hour cycle. Okay, so there we go, and so you can see that Sentient Trader has followed my instructions, if you like, although it took me 2 goes to pin that trough there. And the reason for that is because, of course, the first pinning that I did didn't make sense with the analysis that Sentient Trader is performing. You must realize the Hurst analysis that Sentient Trader performs is a very complex analysis and a very complex analysis process. And if you try and pin a trough just anywhere, Sentient Trader will sometimes reject it and will say, no, I can't possibly pin that trough over there. Anyway, I will speak more about trough pinning later, but I hope you will all agree that trough pinning is a really very, very exciting new thing that you can do, particularly on the intraday level, and particularly for analysts. For those of you who are real analysts, and you're looking at the analysis and you're saying that's not right, no, put that trough over there, and you wanting to be making trading decisions according to the analysis that you can see happening. I've had conversations with Sentient Trader users where they've said, I can see that trough should really be over there. Well, now you can actually pin the trough. You can, as a matter of interest, also pin the first circle and whiskers to a particular trough. Okay, so I could have done that, but I'll talk more about that next week. So you can, in fact, pin circle and whiskers, and you can tell Sentient Trader that trough has happened. Move on. Stop being so reluctant to position the trough. I must say, I've been playing with this for a long time, and I've got to tell you, some of the time I'm right, but quite a lot of the time Sentient Trader is right. So you need to use trough pinning with caution, because quite often Sentient Trader proves me wrong and proves itself right, and I should have been cautious about positioning a trough too prematurely, which is why these pins are always shown to you when you first open a chart. It's very important. If Sentient Trader is making decisions not on the basis of what it does, and it does very well. If it's making decisions on the basis of your opinions, with all due respect, it simply reminds you that decision has been made on the basis of your instruction, okay? And therefore, if the analysis starts looking very odd, if this analysis starts looking very odd, then the first thing you need to do is start removing some of your pins to see whether your pins are causing problems. Okay, I see I've missed many questions. It's time for me to wrap up, so I'll answer the final questions, and then it's time for us to say goodbye. Mark, do the workspaces have to be open? I've answered that, yes. Mark, again, David, what does the data refresh button do in Sentient Trader? Does it work with MT4 data? Mark, the data refresh button only works if your data is not receiving live streaming data. It is receiving data from a static file, in other words, an ASCII file or a Metastock file, which are static files on your computer. And the only reason that data refresh button is there is that if you have some kind of there are systems out there that will update data live for you. Your ASCII data or your Metastock data will update your files live for you. And so then what you can do with that data refresh button is you can set it to auto refresh every few minutes or every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. And if you have a system that automatically updates your ASCII data every few minutes or whatever, or something like that, then you can you can refresh the data in your chart without having to close your workspace and reopen it. If you're working with MetaTrader 4 data, so in answer to your question, no, it does not work with MetaTrader 4 data. If you're using any of the live data feeds, such as MetaTrader 4, DT and IQ feed, IB data, or eSignal's our new one, which is going to be launched very soon. eSignal's now working. Then of course you hitting the refresh data button does absolutely nothing. Okay, question from Craig. Are you clicking where the trough is or where it is going to? Okay, so Craig, the trough pinning process requires two clicks. Okay, let me go back to the 40-day cycle. The first click is in the phasing area, as you can see down here, near to the trough that you want to move. It just has to be near to it. It doesn't have to be right on it. So let's say I want to capture this 80-day trough and I want to move it. I simply double click. Immediately a gray line pops up from that 80-day trough. Okay, and as I move my mouse around, it moves to all the potential positions of where that trough could be. As I come all the way back here, you'll notice it won't move any earlier than that point because that trough cannot be. There are several videos on our learning zone about the trough pinning feature, so I'd suggest you have a look at it. It's a really fantastic process. The next thing that you do is that you right click and you select to pin the 80-day cycle trough to that price trough. Okay, I don't want to do that, so I just click somewhere else and it stops the trough pinning process. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me on today's Trader Chat. We've gone a little bit over time, but thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your interest in Sentient Trader. We are in the process of rolling version 3 of Sentient Trader out to all of our current users. If you are not a current user, you must become one soon, clearly. And so I look forward very much to seeing you next week on Trader Chat. Next week's Trader Chat is at the later time, 2 hours later than today's Trader Chat. Also, please bear in mind, if you are a current user of Sentient Trader and you have the Analyst Edition, for instance, you can upgrade to the Trader edition or any higher edition using our new software rental feature.